Talk us through the significance of this. Negotiations have been going on and off for months now. How significant is this development?
It's hugely significant, but I'm sorry to say we're stopping the bleeding, but there's a long way to heal. I think it's more a sense of exhaustion in the Middle East rather than exhilaration, because it's been a hugely destructive war, starting on October 7th when Hamas launched an unprecedented, brutal attack and kidnapped Israelis from their homes and dragged them into Gaza. When the smoke clears and we start implementing the ceasefire, you're going to see hostages who've been held underground. There is no light at the end of Hamas tunnels. So it's going to feel a little bit like a zombie apocalypse with people who've been living underground under horrific conditions coming back, returning to Israel. And the same will be said of the Palestinian civilians who were caught in the crossfire. We can argue from today until tomorrow whose fault it was, those civilian casualties, whether it was Hamas themselves or Netanyahu or the UN or the supreme leader of Iran. But the fact is that Gaza is reduced to rubble. It's ground down. It's almost, merged with the sands of the beaches of Gaza.
We've heard a lot of things already this morning. One of them is from the hostages' families. Some of them were saying they're feeling anxious, they're feeling relieved, but there's still a lot can go wrong. How delicate is this? We've got this 6 weeks, this ceasefire with negotiations to continue to end this war, but how delicately poised is it?
Very delicate. It's a 3-phase plan that President Biden put out last May. When I worked at the U.S. State Department, one of my colleagues over in the Israeli negotiating team said to me, the only plans that work in the Middle East are 1-point plans. So we hope to get through phase 1, which is the humanitarian part of this deal, where they'll be releasing women, the elderly, and children, if there are any children alive. It's the second phase, which they're going to start negotiating after about 2 weeks. That could really be a hitch, and that's when the male hostages would be released. And the third phase, let's cross our fingers that we get there. When I was at the State Department, we were working on Israeli-Palestinian negotiations, and our motto was nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. We failed, we went home, and there was a war. Luckily, lessons learned. Right now, they're going to try to implement at least the first phase. They're calling it a gradual deal. In Arabic, we say shwai shwai, one step at a time.
Why now? Why is this agreement happen now, do you think?
I mean, it's a great question. Trump will tell you it was Trump. I think what's really interesting, they put out statements, both the incoming president and the outgoing president. Trump emphasized the hostages being released, and President Biden emphasized there'll be a halt to fighting. But what I can say for sure is that we've never seen two presidents work together. They've been herding cats for 15 months now trying to get the ceasefire, and these were two big dogs. Their combined firepower, you could call a little bit of push and a little bit of pull. But I know that for one thing, Netanyahu was very much afraid watching Trump twisting like a tornado on the horizon coming in. Would he get the same kind of deal? Would he want to please somebody who's going to be heavily reliant on? The answer is yes. And then for Hamas, they're weak. They're isolated, not only in Gaza, but regionally. All of their sort of their funders have been decimated by the Israeli military. And so I think they also felt like, take what we can see now, because what's coming down the road might be much worse.
One of the questions is, once this phase continues and negotiations continues, what next? Who will govern Gaza?
I mean, that's the big question. What next? Because again, it's the day after that we've always been worrying about. Netanyahu has not put out a plan for real practical political reasons, because he knows that the right wing of his cabinet would pull out if he talked about any kind of, allowance to the Palestinian Authority that's in charge of the West Bank right now, for them to be working, even if it's a reformed Palestinian Authority. There are people in Israel who feel deeply that the Palestinian Authority has been aiding and abetting in terrorism. So why would we put them back into Gaza? But I do think that if the impulse to build up rather than to blow up takes over, if a pragmatism rather than a kind of ideological rigidness seizes all of those leaders in the Middle East, we have an opportunity to build. And we see that potential in Syria, in Lebanon. I mean, it's just hopefully going to open up a new day, a new dawn. We've got Trump, the deal maker. Let's hope he makes a deal for the best.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting to see in the next couple of days as well, the reaction in Israel with those couple of ministers particularly not happy about any sort of deal. Laura Blumenfeld, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your thoughts and analysis. We appreciate it.